Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And in this lesson, I was reading this article here where you have new Carnival cruise line rules, as it says here in the subheading, limiting ghetto behavior. And when you read, as I'm about to read here, you have some people that are upset, okay, about these new rules and these new guidelines, because they, some are calling it racist, right? Some are calling it, everything in the book. But in actuality, if you look at it, it's just people wanting the right to go and be demons, right? and not having the ability to do so anymore. So now they're upset, right? And that's unreasonable behavior, because when you look at what it is, as I'm about to read, that they are limiting, these aren't, these are things that any person in their right mind would want, right? These are things that if people were behaviors that if people were exhibiting on a cruise, all right, where you're trying to, just maybe have some peace and enjoy views or whatever, you'd be pissed off. Okay. And I think they're calling it black fatigue. But anyway, let's read this real quick. It says here, the fatigue is real. In recent years, the unwritten rule among most vacation goers interested in a week-long cruise was to stay far away from boats with cheap tickets. Why? Well, no one has been allowed to say why publicly, but the mountain of video evidence on social media sends the message loud and clear. A certain subset of Black customers cause big problems and ruin everyone else's peace. It's not, quote, racist to point out observable facts. And the viral, quote, Black fatigue discussion is not something that can be easily dismissed. It is not just whites complaining, it's everyone, including other Black people. So what they call Black fatigue is pretty much, as we're about to see, just ratchet behavior, right? Extra unneeded behavior that people are getting tired of. But when they speak out against it, it's looked at as, racism or whatnot. Ghetto behavior is epidemic and intolerable. So much so that corporations are starting to take notice and calculate the cost/benefit ratio of marketing to the fatigue subset. Of course, they won't say it outright, nor do they need to. Carnival Cruise Line has become a magnet for Black vacationers, largely due to deep discounts on 3 to 5 day tickets. In 2015, the average cost per passenger was around $168 per night. And now in 2025, it's about $50 per passenger per night. So you already know what that means. It says here, the cruises have also garnered a reputation as a, quote, block party on the water, with many Black customers expecting some rowdiness as part of the experience. And that's, it's one thing, right? Where there are certain places that are like that, right? Certain concerts, parties, events that are like that, but not everywhere has to be like that, right? They call, you got to turn up, and not everybody wants to turn up every day of the week. Not everybody wants to turn up every time. It's as though if there's a gathering, there has to be some turn up, and by turn up, they mean this. And what usually happens in cases like that, one thing leads to another, and then there's a scuffle, or there's a fight, there's a big argument, there's some unnecessary madness going on because spirits are high, tensions are high, and you got other people that are just pissed because they're like, I can't enjoy this ride or this vacation because of all of this. However, Carnival introduced new passenger rules in June, and some critics and activists assert that these restrictions specifically target Black customers in an effort to in an effort to ward them off. It almost sounds like these are like some like brute animals or something that you're trying to set up, a fence or some defense to like ward them off, get them away. But when you look at some of the behavior that you see in these settings, can you really blame people, or even these companies here for trying to enact these rules? No. So the new rules include zero tolerance on smoking marijuana on board ships. Minors cannot be in public areas without a parent after 1 a.m. Personal folding fans and the quote unquote boots on the ground line dance are banned due to noise. So, as it says, Bluetooth speakers in public areas are banned due to loud music disrupting other passengers. Why would that be, a problem? Right? Why would that be a problem? Just because you're in the mood to listen to music, there's a reason why they invented headphones, right? But just because you're in the mood to listen to music doesn't mean that everybody else that's there wants to listen to music, especially maybe not that kind of music. Somebody might just be trying to enjoy a vacation with their family, but here it is, they're subject to loud, unruly, 24/7 Cardi B ratchet music, okay? Or freaking Ice Spice singing about shaking her ass in a deli. Meanwhile, this dude got his 2-year-old daughter just trying to enjoy the ride, but he can't. It's late, people trying to sleep, and all you hear is boom, 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 stomps and shit, and screaming and yelling and all that. Yeah, no, definitely not. Just chill out. It's not needed. Just chill out. It says here, disruptive guests can be removed without a refund and possibly fined. Why would that be a problem? Numerous customers claim that Carnival DJs will no longer play rap music, though Carnival denies this. Critics argue that the new rules are designed to make black passengers feel less welcome. Others, but hold on. I mean, this is not the case though, right? Because when you look at the majority of people, right, there's still going to be a portion of them that are going to go on these cruises, even with these limitations. In fact, this might even attract more people to come on there because now they know, oh, wow, I can finally go on here, right, without having to worry about all of these things here that people would be doing. Others argue that the new rules are not racially motivated and are simply designed to make assholes or a-holes feel less welcome. Common complaints about Carnival cruises include loud and obnoxious mob behavior. You hear that? These are common complaints. Loud and obnoxious mob behavior. That's man. Oh my gosh, boy. Fighting and a lack of cleanliness, which is disgusting, right? Nobody wants to deal with that on vacation. As a side note, in 2024, the CDC released a report on the most unsanitary cruise ships, and Carnival ships held 3 of the top 10 spots on the list. That is disgusting. Okay? Like, I haven't been on one, and thank God, but imagine, you wake up in the morning and you go wherever it is that the common ground where everybody usually is, and it's just like bottles or dirt or whatever the case is. It just looks all messed up. And it explains why, because the night before, it was just loud music, partying, and ratchetness. Absolutely unacceptable. The people who complain about such broad common sense rules are essentially self-reporting as the very people that no one wants around. Being trapped on a boat and surrounded by a massive ocean requires behavioral limitations on everyone. But for some reason, only a certain group of customers are complaining about being forced to behave for the sake of others. See? American society is growing tired of the antics of this demographic. It's no longer cute or a matter of cultural differences. expectations are finally being enforced and free passes on bad behavior are being canceled. Yeah, right. Because you go out here and you act stupid, and then you get upset when people get tired of your shit. That's just annoying. Being a niggard. Okay, that's pretty much what it is, and that's why people don't want to be around that kind of energy. Right? It's not. There's nothing fun necessarily about it. But I got a couple of precepts here. Um, Starting off here, this is Second Peter 2:12. Now, the point that the apostle Peter was making in here, right, is important, right, going into how they speak evil things as we read the verse of they speak evil of things that they don't understand. But the main part I want to take from here is what he labeled them as, right? Though he was referring to these false teachers and whatnot, this still applies to Israelites in general because they behave this way. Right, 2 Peter 2:12, but these as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. Now, when you look at the word brute, it says destitute of reason, contrary to reason, absurd. When you look at the behavior that you have predominantly Israelites, okay, both southern and northern, but a lot of them be southern kingdom. And you look at the behavior when they're in these zones, when they're doing these things, it is absurd. It's contrary to reason. It's like it's just you just leave them, just leave them. Let them do whatever it is. When they're done and they're tired, they'll go. Because you can't reason with them, you can't talk to them. It's just an uncomfortable setting. Okay, and that's just the truth. Right? That's just the truth. People get upset when you speak the truth, but that's just the truth. Because oftentimes Jake will try to, run and say, oh, you got these stereotypes and whatnot against our people and whatnot. But blatantly speaking, there are some truths to those stereotypes. Right. And at that point, then it becomes observable facts, as the article said, where you look at the behavior, right, of some of these people, not every one of them, but a good portion of them. And then you look at why it is that people behave a certain way or say certain things about them. And then you're like, but I can kind of see it. I can see why they wouldn't want you in their neighborhoods. Because when I come to your neighborhood and I see how you are and how you conduct yourself, I can see why certain people wouldn't want you in their neighborhoods bringing this energy and this vibe. It's not just a matter, the scriptures do talk about the perpetual hatred that both Esau and these nations, they take advantage of Jake, but Esau has that perpetual hatred towards Jake. But if you just look on a general level, you will see there are a lot of behaviors that Jake exhibits that are not, you don't want to be around, right? Even being an Israelite yourself, you don't want to be around that behavior. You don't want to be around that energy. It's just chaotic, right? It's not, you can't even have a regular conversation. Sometimes you want to go somewhere and you just want to talk. You just want to chill. But you can't have that because somebody somewhere is there willing to ruin your peace. You'll have somebody making a point. Somebody else comes there and tries to defend, or counter that point. But the way they go about it only proves that point even further. Anyway, I got a one or two more here. Now this is a really good one, right? This is Ecclesiasticus 27:13. The discourse of fools is irksome, and their sport is the wantonness of sin. Right? So there we go. The discourse of fools is irksome. Now, the discourse, is like the conversation, right? But when you look at, you can have conversation and when you're having a conversation with somebody or discourse, typically you're either in the same setting or, right, you can hear each other or whatnot. And when you look at the, because it's not just the conversations that they have, but it's how they act when they're amongst themselves, right? And they're exhibiting these irksome behaviors. It is, as the scriptures say, irksome. You don't want to be around that. It's just going to piss you off. Because it's just like, what's the point in all that? You know, put some damn shoes on. Your big back ass. Anyway, um, this is let me get one or two more here. And this is all primarily due to the curses, right, that the Heavenly Father put upon the nation of Israel, because Israelites weren't always like this, right? There was a point in time, believe it or not, where the people, the children of Israel, were holy. They actually had reason. Okay, they were a calm and reasonable people that you could be around, articulate, right, kind, caring. But now, when you go back into history and you read about uh, Ptolemy the Second Philadelphus, right? Aside from his role in the Syrian wars, when you look at the like the origins of the Septuagint and the account that they have of Ptolemy's interaction with the Israelites, the second that is, he was fascinated. Right, he was like, "Yo, after he spoke with them, he's like, bring some more of them Jews down here. Yeah, I want to learn more about like how they live, what they do, and all of that." You think if they were behaving like they are today, that would have been the case? This is Sirach chapter, let's see, 41, verse 15. A man that hideth his foolishness is better than a man that hideth his wisdom. So you may be a fool, right? You may you may have some irksome tendencies, but nobody has to know that. You're better off keeping that concealed, right? Hiding that, and people will think that at best you're normal, than for you to just go out there and it's like everywhere you go, your ratchet and irksome behavior follows you. Your name precedes you in the wrong way. You don't want that, okay? Because because of the curses we're under, wherever we go, we're already behind, right? We're already at a disadvantage wherever we go, just because we're Israelites, and obviously it'll be reversed in the kingdom. So you don't need to give more reason. Think about it, right? From from the perspective of, say, like even when you have these altercations, right, with like law enforcement, right, centurions and so on, when they come to a case, right, when they pull somebody over, when they rush to a situation and they're briefed on it, or they see what you look like, you're a black man or so-called black man or Israelite, there's already a certain energy and mindset that they have. And sometimes it's because of what they've seen in the past, what they've been told, stories they've heard from their colleagues, or how they've even been trained in these situations. So they know if they pull up to like a white neighborhood and because some altercation over there and it's just like Edomites, they already know that, all right, I don't need to be on edge per se, right? Because even if this guy just like punch this guy in the face, I can actually still talk to this person, right? They're gonna verbally communicate with me. It's not gonna be straight aggression, and now I gotta because what they'll often do, the reason why they get so aggressive so quickly is to set that tone of dominance, because if they don't establish that within the first few seconds or first few interactions, they can say goodbye to that, because whoever it is that they're dealing with is they're not gonna give them that chance anymore, right? So they lose that ability to enforce authority, and that's why oftentimes when they first approach a situation, they're always so like quote unquote aggressive, because they're trying to establish dominance in the first few first interaction. But anyway, I'm gonna end it here. Just wanted to say a few words on that article, because really, if you look at it, right, you're upset because these are perfectly, in my opinion, these aren't any outrageous, outlandish limitations, right? This is something that would, if anything, make these things more attractive to people to come there, because these complaints that they're having should go down, right? They're trying to enforce measures that will bring down the mob behavior, fights, dirtiness, and all of that. And interestingly enough, you have people that are upset about that. And this is why the Heavenly Father is going to bring the judgment he's going to bring, and he's going to start with Israelites first, because you have fallen way too far from the tree. So with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.